The V1 is an awesome tool for feeling the ocean and understanding what's going on out there. It's hard to get sort of that feeling from a OC1 or even from a 6-man. You know, the rudder just ends up sort of killing a lot of that motion out there. And the same as a 6-man, you're absorbing a lot of that motion. Whereas in a V1, you're feeling everything that's going on. And you also, it makes you hyper aware sort of your environment, because you have to be conscious sort of every second. You can't let your mind wander. You can't put your head down in like an OC1. You know, you're paying attention basically. If you stop paying attention, you spin out. So sort of the key parts about a V1 is one, primarily is that you're when you first get into it, and probably the same for a 6-man somewhat, but you're anchoring your body, that you want to be pivoting the boat around your body always. You know, whereas in an OC1, you don't got to think about it, right? You're pressing with your feet, you're just paddling forward. But in a V1, everything's like this. So imagine the blade, you know, you're doing this, but really you want to be moving the boat with your core here. So it starts sort of by anchoring your feet somehow. And everybody's going to be a little bit different. A lot of these boats have foot braces now. So you're going to basically can anchor both of your feet against the brace. Or what I like to do is lock one foot back here. And I'll do this and just keep it like that. So one foot's forward, one foot's back, and this never really switches. Every so often, maybe just to stretch out, but it makes it so I'm super locked in there. You know, my knees pivoted against here, this knee's pivot against there, the leg against the brace, and my back foot against, you know, underneath the seat, basically. So what that's doing is just anchoring my body in there. And then it means that every time you're trying to do a correction stroke, you know, that you're turning it from your core. Instead of trying to do this, you know, and moving the thing with your arms and whatever, you're doing this. And that's like the fundamental part that's really, thank you, Brian, for bringing that. Here, you guys can actually, no, I'll pass it out after. That's the fundamental part that's really hard to get, is that controlling the boat with your body rather than with your arms. You know, and so once you start thinking about that aspect of it, the basics of it, you paddle on your right, you're going to go left. You paddle on your left, you're going to go right. You know, from there you can do a lot in that playing with the angle of your blade. If you're going to enter like this, if power face out, you can bring your boat actually to the same side as you're paddling on. So, you know, if the boat is here, you want to, as little as possible, bring your blade out. You know, as you don't want to draw, because you're sort of, you know, your forward momentum instead of going forward is bringing the boat like this. So as often as possible, you want to be able to steer yourself with the angle of the blade instead of doing this. So one, if you go out in the flat water, it's pretty easy to do. You can put your power face out like this, and if you're on your right, you can actually bring yourself to the right. And likewise, if you enter like that, power face in, you can bring yourself to the left harder. Oh, right on. Except that only really works in the flat water. As soon as you go in the surf, that sort of all goes out the window. There's no real point, or in any sort of windy conditions. If you're trying hard to bring the boat either way, and you're out, you know, out there, and you're entering like this, and you're like, damn it, he told me I could bring the boat to the right if I'm on my right, it's not going to work in the surf, because you just need so much more force to bring it around. So what happens in the surf a lot, one is that you end up having to do sort of these correction strokes. You know, you want to do this, and you can correct right at the end of your stroke. So if I am, say, on my right, and I'm doing this right at the end of my stroke, I'm going to be bringing the butt to the right. You know, if I can sort of do this and sort of bring it back to the right, you know, so I can sort of, at the end, flick it like this, which in theory, right, you're pushing out like that, so you're pushing the tail like this. So you always got to think of yourself, you know, right behind center, sort of, so that anything that you're doing from back here is you're pushing the tail around. So if you're doing this in the back, you're pushing the tail here. If you go like that, you're pushing the tail like that. It just gets really hard when you're in the surf. And something else that's very different when you're out there, when you're actually catching waves. If you're at the last clinic, I was saying in an OC1, you know, you're kind of looking like from here to the tent. Like you have this real broad you're looking 30 feet in front of you and you're looking at every angle to the side. In a V1, you're looking maybe like 3 feet in front of you and basically only 3 feet in front of you. You're not taking in, you just can't, or at least I can't, take in everything that's going on around me. Like, it's just way more immediate. So you're only sort of dealing with what you're feeling and what you're seeing right there. You're not gonna look at a bump up there and be like, I'm gonna connect to that bump. It's just not gonna happen. So the same thing when you catch a wave, all you're trying to do is milk that wave. And I've heard this also from top Tahitian paddlers. They're not trying to connect. They're trying to catch one wave and just stay on that wave. And the ways to do that, you're catching a wave. And when you catch a wave, wait, before I say that, real quick, look at the bottom of the boat. These boats nowadays, all of them, they started off, the Tahitian lagoon boats started off with very little rocker and sort of this hard keel going all the way through. So there would be a hard line, which is basically keeping you straight. And what's been happening to the Tahitian boats and what we did with this is they're getting more and more rocker, and that keel is sort of moving more to the ends. So what you're ending up with is sort of a round spot right here, similar to an OC1, and then back here you can see all of a sudden the hard line starts again. So basically this is what's keeping you straight, is this hard line. So what's happening in the surf is every time you're catching a wave, your tail's coming out of the water. So when your tail comes out of your water, if this is all in the air, the boat's sitting right here, it's super loose, right? Because you don't have that keel holding you in place. So that sort of instant of catching the wave is going to be the hardest instant to steer, or just one, possibly the easiest. You just have the most sort of maneuverability because that's not holding you in, but it's also the room or the time that you're going to spin out. So what happens when you're catching the wave, there's a super critical stroke that took me forever to learn, and I never learned it. Somebody, Monatea Owens, told me after I'd been paddling for like 4 years rudderless, and it blew my mind. To go take a stroke and you just hold it right behind like this. This is when you have some momentum when you're on the wave. You hold the paddle like this behind, you're leaning forward. This is way back there. The further it is back, the more you're pushing the tail around. And you can hold it like this with the pressure on the pressure side. And you're gonna be spinning your butt this way, right? You're sort of the same as if you're steering in a 6-man. So you're gonna be holding like this, which will spin you this way to the left. And really quickly, all you have to do is angle your wrist, and you're gonna go straight into a poke, right? So you're gonna go right. So on one side, whatever side you're on, just you end your stroke like this. You can do it for 30 seconds, the duration of the wave. You can do it for 2 seconds. Instead of just trying to do this, always trying to poke. Really that made all the difference in my V1 surfing, because all of a sudden I had control in the surf when I didn't have it before. And also that concept of not trying to chase down and connect. It's not an OC1, and you gotta get OC1 out of your head, sort of. So you're gonna catch the wave, sit there, milk it for as long as you can. That is basically all I think that is communicable about a V1. The rest is sort of going out there and feeling it. Like, it just takes a lot of time on a boat. I just saw Jeremy, who is another good V1 paddler. Jeremy, I was gonna ask you if you have anything to add, but you didn't really hear it, so.
What did you talk about so far?
Everything.
Want to watch the video?
Another thing to think about is that ama, you have an ama on your left, it's going to theoretically be pulling you left. So to play around with the weighting down that ama, if you're leaning right and lighting it up, theoretically you can pull yourself to the right, or at least keep yourself straight. Putting some weight on it can pull you to the left. But again, just to reiterate, it's nothing. You're not going to go out in the surf and ever be faster than an OC1. It's just a different beast, sort of. It really teaches you how to understand the water. If you're a steersman, it's incredible, because it just hones in your concentration. And I think as far as it's applicable to making you a better OC1 paddler, you know, it just teaches you about the ocean, you know, that you can't get with a rudder. You know, not to sound like a sales pitch, because we do happen to make these, but they are unreal craft. You guys have any questions about V1 paddling?
Oh, I do.
Yes.
Did I hear you correctly when you said if you're on the left, poking on the left, you're going right?
No, sorry. If I said that, I was wrong.
I'll watch playback.
If you're on the right, when you poke on your right, you're going to go right. But what I was saying is you holding it, you know, leaning forward, holding it out like that with pressure on here, and you're bracing it sort of. So you're, you know, it takes some energy.
Are you holding it close?
You're holding it out. So
out.
so here's the hull of the boat. You know, this is going to be out like that.
Okay.
So there's a lot of pressure on here. So it's the opposite of a poke. Right, the poke, the pressure is going to be on this side.
It's going to make you turn which way? Right.
So this is going to make you turn left. This is scooting the butt to the right.